I initially wrote a whole different video on Assassin's Creed Odyssey after only playing 16 hours of the game. But as I worked on other videos, I kept playing Assassin's Creed on the side, and since then, it's only solidified the worries I had for the game. It had a slow start, but I was hoping it would pick up later on. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and I'm 50 hours in. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a lot of video game, to a fault even. The more I keep playing of it, the more I just wish it was over, but it just keeps on going, and to places that honestly aren't that interesting. Odyssey builds upon the foundation set by Origins, but it feels as if there was no one around to say when to stop building. There are so many systems in this game, it's exhausting just to talk about them all. If Origins nudged the Assassin's Creed series closer into being an RPG, Odyssey pushes it all the way there. Dialogue trees, romance options, side quests upon side quests, a fleshed out gear system, it has it all. Some of these changes I'm fond of, others feel like needless padding to an already immense game. The dialogue system for one gives more personality to your interactions between characters. The options don't seem very consequential though. They might alter someone's demeanor or slightly change your quest rewards, but nothing too significant. There are a few main story options that will change a few things later in the game, but even those feel more like flavor than completely different outcomes. It's still a fun change despite its simplicity, especially when you're rolling your eyes at Socrates or going along with Alcibiades' innuendos.
I'm anything but soft, I assure you.
Focus, Alcibiades. What is an Olisvos?
It just doesn't feel like a fully fleshed out system. Same goes for the romance options. It mostly amounts to flirting with the quest giver a handful of times, going for a quickie in the back, and then moving on with the next thing on your checklist. Again, not very complex, but it leads to some silly shifts in tone that I'm totally okay with.
That was enough to make me swoon.
Told you.
The combat is practically the same as it was in Origins, with a larger focus on parrying since you no longer carry a shield. It's totally fine in most situations. Your skill tree is also a bit different. You have passive and active abilities you can unlock. The active abilities get put into an ability wheel that can be triggered by using your adrenaline meter. It adds more variety to your character build and gives you more interesting moves during combat. I don't have any strong opinions on the combat system itself. What I care more about is the new gear system that supplements the combat. In Odyssey, not only do new weapons drop from enemies, but so do new pieces of armor. Helmets, gauntlets, chest pieces. Every piece of your armor is interchangeable. I'm less into this new system because of its gameplay implications and more because of its aesthetic implications. I like seeing my armor change throughout the game, and I get a certain joy from wearing something stupid like, say, a Minotaur mask in the middle of a very serious sneaking mission. But right as I find myself having some fun with Odyssey, there's something ready to bring me back down. I just said that the combat was fine in most situations. Here's some of those situations where it isn't. The way damage is dealt has been tweaked a bit coming from Origins. Like the previous game, Odyssey splits damage into 3 types: Warrior, which is your melee, Hunter, which is your range, and Assassin damage. My main issue is with Assassin damage. Too many times have I been in situations where I go to assassinate my target and I don't do enough damage to kill them. This happened a few times in Origins, but you eventually got to the point where it was a seldom thing. Not so in Odyssey. It seems to happen on more enemies than not. There are gear perks and skills that help you deal more assassin damage, but it still happens far too often even with the skills. Hell, it even happens with enemies that are lower level than I am. By the way, sidebar, everything in the game scales to your level, so you can never actually be over leveled for something. This completely takes away the power fantasy that I like having in my RPGs of being able to go through an area and breeze through it. Without that, it's just less fun, more tedious. Anyway, back to assassin damage. After you fail to assassinate your target in one go, you move into open combat with said target and anyone around to see you. Soldiers gang up on you and try to overpower you while you try focusing on your target. It's not particularly difficult, you have the skills to handle everything coming at you, it just feels unnecessary. I didn't screw up my stealthy infiltration, this isn't punishment for getting seen, I'm properly leveled up. Why make me go through this? I should have been able to slip in, stab, and slip out. This is actually the perfect time to bring up another new system in Odyssey, the Mercenaries, because when you're in open combat with all these people, chances are it'll trigger. I won't mince words here. I kind of hate this system. Picture this, you have your bungled up assassination under control. There are only a few soldiers left plus your target. But what's that? Suddenly an enemy with a whole lot of health appears. Now you have to deal with that. Have fun! Again, these mercenaries aren't challenging. They act just like any other enemy. They're just damage sponges, slowly taking down their health until they're dead. Having to fight them just feels like a waste of time. They drop some decent gear, but because you get gear so quickly in this game, it never feels worth the effort. I'd much rather try my best to ignore them in combat while while focusing on my main target first, then when he's down, run away from the mercenary, hide, and pay off the bounty so they lose my trail. In fact, I'd rather just not have this system in the game at all. I want you to take a second to realize that I've talked all this mess about a couple systems and haven't actually gotten to the meat of the game yet, because there is a lot of bloat here. So let's move on to the quests and the world. This world is huge. This representation of ancient Greece is lush and colorful, but it's all looks and it's very little substance. The game initially asks you if you want to play in exploration mode or not. I was hoping exploration mode was this immersive experience that leads to fun, emergent moments. That's not what this mode is. No. All exploration mode really does is turn off the waypoint to your objective. The game still tells you where you need to go, you just have to use your ego to find the exact spot once you reach the general area. Exploration mode doesn't really encourage exploration because there isn't much worth exploring. All the little question marks around the map are just another enemy base or cave that have the same basic objectives. There aren't any moments of wonder or stumbling upon something that leaves you with a cool story to tell of your experience. Getting around the world is mostly a chore too. It's so vast that even riding a horse feels too slow. It also doesn't help that there's a lot of sea travel. I've never been a fan of the ship traversal or combat, and that continues into Odyssey. As for quests, they're littered all over the place, but I urge anyone watching this to just focus on your story quests and the side quests that are marked with gold and diamonds. Anything else is just busy work, padding for an already bloated game. And even then, the meaty quests can still feel overwhelming at points. One quest can easily split off into 3 different quests, and suddenly you're left with an ever-growing checklist that feels never-ending. It's too much. You could say just mainline the story quests, but the main story itself isn't really pulling me through. It's the side quests that tend to have some of the most interesting moments in the game so far. Not all of them though. There are many that go nowhere, but you don't know which ones until you do them. So ignoring anything but the main story to cut down on the clutter just leaves you with a lesser game. It's a curation problem. I want to do these extra things, but it's all quantity over quality here. And I haven't even touched upon the cultists that are roaming around the world waiting for your blade to introduce them to Hades, or the large-scale battles that give you rewards that aren't even worth the effort that goes into triggering them. Like I said at the beginning of the video, talking about everything is exhausting, so just imagine playing it. I really enjoyed Origins. It struck a balance that Odyssey seems to be unable to grasp. Maybe it's the lack of a gap year, maybe it's the fact that it feels like every game needs to up the ante somehow, but either way, Assassin's Creed Odyssey desperately needed to be edited down to something that's more respectful to the player's time. I'm gonna finish it, but don't expect an official review. While I do believe there's value in a full review from someone who hasn't finished the game, that's just not what I do. And I don't have it in me to write something else more thoughtful than these initial first impressions. I can at least say I doubt there's anything Odyssey can do to bring me back around on it. It's a fine game, I don't dislike it as a whole, but I sure as hell dislike a lot of its pieces, and I'm just tired of thinking about it.